having big conversations about our Browns quarterback decision. We got Shedeur, we got Deshaun Watson. What do you think? What do you think, Cribs, my fellow Brown quarterback? What do you think?
I'm gonna be honest.
Be honest.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell you what I want.
Yes.
I want Shedeur. I think when and I only say that because our fan base is divided on Deshaun. Because we just want to win.
Yeah.
So I'm in a camp of, hey, I just want to win.
That's it.
I don't care who the QB. I just want somebody there that's going to help us win, right?
Yes.
And for me, you can't judge the type of quarterback Shedeur is from practice. It's when the lights cut on, just like Baker Mayfield. When the lights cut on, then he's able and capable of doing something special. Especially with an offseason.
Yes.
A Cleveland Browns legend just said 3 words that the entire fan base needed to hear out loud. I want Shedeur. Josh Cribbs, not a Twitter account, not an anonymous source, a man who bled for the Cleveland Browns, sat down with James Harrison and Joe Haden and said it without hesitation. He wants Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback. Full stop. But before we get into it, 3 things. First, Cribbs made a comparison to Baker Mayfield that reframes this entire debate. Second, he raised a Watson trade scenario that nobody is talking about, and it makes more sense than anything the front office has said publicly. Third, Monken dropped a quote about the rep count that the media buried completely, and it changes everything about how you read this competition. Now let's set the scene. Josh Cribbs is not a casual observer. He is a Cleveland institution, a man who knows what it feels like to play for this city, to fight for this organization, and to watch it make decisions that did not serve the players who deserve better. When he speaks on the quarterback situation, he is speaking from inside an experience that most commentators simply do not have. And what he said was direct. You cannot judge Shedeur Sanders from practice. The lights have to come on. When the real games start, when the pressure is real and the stakes are genuine, that is when you find out what kind of quarterback you have. And the comparison he reached for was Baker Mayfield. That comparison is not accidental. Baker Mayfield was underestimated. Baker Mayfield was questioned at every stage of his evaluation. And Baker Mayfield, when the lights came on in games that mattered, showed something that the practice field never fully revealed. Cribbs watched that happen here. He is applying the same framework to Shedeur. And he is right. The entire critique of Shedeur Sanders from the anonymous source era of year 1 was built on practice observations, things reported from inside the building without names attached, framed to suggest that what he showed in training camp settings was evidence of a ceiling. But the games told a different story. The games against Aaron Rodgers' Jets. The game against Joe Burrow's Bengals. The moments where the stakes were highest and the protection was worst, and Shedeur still found a way to make plays that made the film community sit up. Practice is not the test. Games are the test. And Shedeur has not been given enough games behind a functional offense to pass that test properly. That is the core of Cribbs' argument. And Harrison and Haden could not disagree with it. But here is where the conversation went that nobody else is picking up on. Cribbs acknowledged the financial reality. Watson is earning $46 million this season regardless of whether he plays a snap. That money is spent. It cannot be recovered. The question is not how to get value out of the contract. Is whether starting Watson over Shedeur generates any outcome that benefits the Cleveland Browns beyond the current season. And when you break down that question honestly, the answer keeps coming back the same way. Watson is not Cleveland's long-term future. Every person in that conversation agreed on that. Even the people arguing for giving Watson first-team reps acknowledged that his contract ends after this season, and the organization is not re-signing him to a new deal at any price that reflects his pre-injury performance. So if Watson starts and plays well, wins games, makes the playoffs, the Browns cannot keep him. They let him walk. They hand the franchise to Shedeur anyway. And Shedeur now has to take over a winning situation cold rather than having been developed throughout the season. The development delay does not go away. It just shifts later. And if Watson starts and plays poorly, turns the ball over, cannot sustain drives, confirms what the 0-for-26 third down stretch from his last meaningful playing time already suggested.
Second and goal,
the team
Marshall
loses
is the
games
back,
they might have
Gabriel
won
under
with
center,
Shedeur,
and now
and the
has
organizational
stretch handle.
credibility around the coaching staff takes a hit that spills into year 2 of Monken's tenure. The only scenario where starting Watson makes genuine sense is the one where he plays well enough to generate trade value. Cribbs actually raised this point, and it is more interesting than it sounds. If Watson is healthy and producing, there will be teams desperate enough at the quarterback position mid-season to absorb a significant contract in exchange for a playoff push. That is real. That is an asset the Browns are sitting on. And if the front office is thinking about this correctly, that trade scenario is the actual argument for giving Watson reps, not because they believe he gives them the best chance to win in 2026, but because a functional Watson in weeks 1 through 4 generates a return that a benched Watson never could. If that is the plan, Shedeur supporters should not be panicking. They should be waiting, because the end game of that scenario is still Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns with a traded-away Watson and cap space that no longer weighs on a roster. And Shedeur, starting in that context, after a few weeks of live game observation from a sideline, with the offense at full operational tempo, with the chemistry between the line and the skill positions already established, might actually be a better developmental environment than week 1 with a brand new system still finding its rhythm. That is the glass half full reading of this situation. And Josh Cribbs, James Harrison, and Joe Haden, 3 men who know this organization as well as anyone, arrived at roughly that conclusion by the end of their conversation. The consensus was this: the coaches know who they want. They are keeping it quiet for competitive and organizational reasons. The rep count during camp is a managed process, not a declaration. And the preseason will tell a clearer story than any voluntary minicamp report ever could. Monken himself said it plainly. Just because one quarterback is getting 2/3 of the reps does not mean that quarterback is the starter. The preseason still has to play out. The evaluation is not complete, and the final decision belongs to the film. If you are a Shedeur Sanders supporter watching this offseason, here is the frame that keeps you sane through all of it. The competition is real, the organization has not made a permanent decision, and the player with the most to gain from a functional evaluation environment is the one who has never had one before. Year 1 was broken. The line was broken. The receiving room was broken. The development reps were denied before the season began. Shedeur still won games. Still made plays that veterans who watched the film said they should not have been possible given the structural environment. Now the environment is being fixed. The line is better. The receivers are better. The coaching staff is aligned. And the only remaining variable is whether the organization gives Shedeur the opportunity to show what a functional environment produces. Josh Cribbs wants to see it. James Harrison wants to see it. The fan base wants to see it. My prediction: Shedeur Sanders is the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns by week 5 of the 2026 regular season. The film will force it. The fans will demand it. And the front office will follow the evidence. Drop a comment. Are you with Josh Cribbs on giving Shedeur the full season from day 1? Or do you think the Watson process needs to run its course first? Tell me the real take. If you want to follow this quarterback battle to its resolution, hit that subscribe button right now. This is Gridiron Insights. We'll see you in the next one.